Fantasy Flight's X-Wing's Miniatures game is solely focused on the starfighters of the Star Wars universe up until now. However, they recently announced they would move into a larger scale of ship. They're huge ships. The first of these, the Rebel Transport, as made famous by the film The Empire Strikes Back, has just been released. It's just the first of many to come in the future months. Hey, I'm Dalton with NerdyRaptor. Let's talk tabletop. Alright, so one of the things about this that you'll notice immediately is it doesn't have any guns. Now, in a game all about dogfighting, that really doesn't make any sense. But it's also a really cool control piece. Like, it's got a bunch of ways of supporting your ships, hurting enemy ships indirectly. It's not going to be blasting anybody, but it'll be assigning stress tokens, things like that, and really making your opponent pay for trying to basically maneuver. Also comes with an alternate painted X-Wing, which means you now have 3 different ways of buying X-Wings. This is the original one, but this one's actually got the colors of Red Squadron, which is the squadron that Luke and Wedge fly with in A New Hope. And actually, this expansion comes with the pilots who died. Now, the GR-75 transport itself is really cool. Just the detail on it. You see, like, there's the bridge right there, and then the different shielding and all the extra, like, pods where they had all the transport, like the goods, the people, things like that, all in there. It's really, really cool the amount of detail they actually went into this. Now, like with all the other X-Wing product, this has the rulebook for it, and this one actually matters because you can't just sit down and play a casual standard point game. You have to run it either in the cinematic campaign that comes with, where you actually get to relive the escape from Hoth that's made famous by The Empire Strikes Back. You get to play as the rebels desperately trying to escape the Imperial onslaught that's happening. And then there's also the new format of play, the epic style play. So this won't just be a standard piece. Like, you can't just play casual games with your friends. You can if you're doing the cinematic play or the epic, but not just a regular game. But really, in the epic format, which is a completely new thing, they've just released the rules for, it's going to be really cool that it's a support control piece. We don't really have any of those, especially for the Rebels and X-Wing yet. You see the Lambda on the Imperials, and there's the HWK for the Rebels. But even it can take guns. Both those can have some firepower. This has none. It's all about control and support, making your ships do better and just not allowing your opponents to do some of the things they want to do. It's going to perform this control by assigning stress tokens just for being near. There's new actions that the ship can take. One of them is a jam where you, thematically, you're jamming your opponent's computers. You know, you're just saying, hey, get away. You can't lock on. You can't do things like that. It also allows you to reinforce it with different shields, because this is actually, with the huge ships, they have 2 damage decks. They have a front and a back. It's effectively 2 ships in one. You only take the 1 action. You don't get an action per half, but it's really, really cool the way it works. Like, when your opponents lock on, they can't just lock onto the ship itself. They lock onto the front or the back. Also included are actually these rosters that you and your friends will fill out for whenever you're doing the cinematic campaign. There's the different things, like for the Imperials and the Rebels, you get to fill it out and really actually track it, which is kind of cool. A little bit disappointing that there's only 1 copy of each. I mean, you can copy these on your own. I'm sure there'll be a PDF you can download. But just a little disappointing that it only came with the 1. You could even laminate these if you wanted and just use dry erase marker, which is what I probably will do. So you'll notice that it looks like there's a lot of pilot cards, and there are for the X-Wing. Jack Porkins, who's got a decent pilot skill, but an ability that you can get rid of stress tokens, but if you fail the roll, you actually take damage, which is kind of fitting for Porkins, I guess, considering he died. And then Wes Jansen, who I'm actually really excited about with his pilot skill 8. Whenever he's making an attack, he strips tokens from your opponent. So they lose their defenses, they lose target locks, things like that. It's really powerful. But for the transport, this is it. You get the 1. There's no special pilot to it, but if you look at the bar, you can take 2 crew members. The huge ships also can only take certain upgrades as a result, because otherwise they can become unbalanced. It's a really neat balancing point, but until we see more huge ships, there's not a lot of customization you're going to get. With the huge ships, you'll notice on the bar that there is looks kind of like a companion cube, honestly, the shape of it. Those are huge ship only upgrades. They're things like expanded cargo hold, gas supplies, just different things like that. And there's also a few titles and things like that included as well that, once again, only fit on the huge ships. But there's a variety of titles, so you can kind of find your niche with your different ships, which is pretty cool that they included. And also for the non-huge ships, 4 new astromech droids and 3 copies of flechette torpedoes, which are amazing. So here we go, the tokens, which are once again one of the bigger parts of every X-Wing expansion. But this one's kind of different. It's got a lot of objective tokens, except for the shields and ion and a few other actions. Objectives. These are all objectives, except for the movement template, which I actually want to talk about real quick. So with the other X-Wing products, you always have your movement dial, which this still has. And that tells you the kind of moves you can do, like your banks, your hard turns, things like that. This is what you get for the transport. For going straight, you just hold it next to, you move straight. For turns and stuff though, you actually have to anchor this on one of the corners and turn. So the movement with this is going to be very tricky to get down, and it's very different from anything else in the game so far. This is the movement dial for the transport. You'll notice the little pips. That's actually how much energy it gets from those, and the energy lets it do special actions like we haven't seen on any of the ships before. With Imperial Ace as an Imperial player, you want that. Like, that's something for you. This isn't really something you need as a Rebel player or an Imperial player. This expansion especially lends itself kind of more to the collectors and the people who are playing the game all the time. It'll probably definitely spend more time on the shelf than on the tabletop. It's a really cool collector's piece because, once again, I mean, it's a huge, awesome looking ship. The detail's great on it. And you can play it in the cinematic campaign to really help you kind of relive the Escape from Hoth from the movies. And even then with the cinematic play, I don't see myself playing through it repeatedly. Like, I'll play through it a few times, and like in a few months, every now and then I can see someone be like, hey, let's do that. It's not going to be like weekly going up to my game shop and saying, hey, let's do the campaign. It's got to be an every now and then kind of thing. To fulfill your nerdy needs, head over to NerdyRaptor.net, and to learn about X-Wing and other games, click the links below.